There's one person missing, and it's kind of like why I put the title, Where Was DM? Because, oh, thank you so much for the new membership. So I'm going to play a clip about that. Let's get right into the book, because I'm like kind of doing a word salad thing here. And then I'll talk about this and get my notes together. So this clip, well, actually, I'll bring up two of the controversies. So in the trailer, we hear, it's really interesting because stating that she didn't know that they had been stalked for a period of time. It was interesting to hear her say that. And I don't know what context they're putting that in, but when they had originally announced the James Patterson book, we were covering it back then, and we were doing a comparison and contrast with Howard Bloom. And I have a statement from Steve Gonzalez at the end of this, where he was insisting to Howard Bloom that if he's going to use that word, that he provides the prosecution with the reasons why he was using the term stalking. And so we'll get to that public statement. But first, let's listen to the description of this series. The other thing I would point out, too, is the series is due to come out. The difference between this series and other ones we've seen is it is slated to come out 1 month before the trial. So it's a 4-part series. So either they're going to maybe release them all together, or they could like stagger them. And if they stagger them once a week, would that bring us up to trial? Or would they even consider like releasing them at trial? And I've heard people ask, like, well, what's the intention of releasing something like this so close to trial? And I've heard a lot of people say, oh, it's to taint the jury pool, or it's a media move. I frankly think that this book is so planned. I think it's public interest. I think peak public interest is when the trial starts, and it's strategically planned that way. The other thing I would question is, I don't know how this plays into it, but I heard somebody mention earlier, what's interesting is like Amazon has so many search warrants involved in this case, like the click history. We talk about the knife sheath. We talk about the, search history. Is there some sort of like conflict of interest? Whereas, or what if Amazon, I don't know, how does that work? Like what they could say or couldn't say? Do they know special privileged information? What happens if they release something? I don't know, just some questions I want to bring up. But let's listen to the description of the book. And then I'm going to bring you some sound bites that pertain to Maddie's mother. And then a couple things that might talk about or might explain to us what happened to DM that morning. And I'll turn to the chat too. So here we go. There's also, I'm going to play. So I have actually do a sponsorship in this video for Louisa jewelry. And I'm going to play the commercial through. It's like the only commercial I've ever created. I filmed it myself. So it's like 2 minutes long, but I'm going to play it because I think we'll play through it. Anyway, I just want to explain that before it starts. Hold on. You may have heard it alluded to, though, over the course of the last few months. So this is the article that Mikey sent me. And it says, Amazon lands Idaho murder docu-series. All right. The show is based on an upcoming nonfiction book by James Patterson and Vicky Ward. I like can't help but pause right there and just to get your impression of what you think. The first thing is I am really excited to read a James Patterson novel. I do like his style of writing. I'm not a big novel person, but I am excited to see the way he puts the information together. Another thing that bothers me, I'll read on, but it sounds like, again, this is a pre-trial release. Come on. Prime Video is taking a big step in true crime. The Amazon-owned streamer has ordered a documentary series about the 2022 University of Idaho murders and the investigation arrest and the upcoming trial of Brian Kohlberger in a connection with the case. Amazon MGM Studios, Skydance, and Story Syndicate are also developing a scripted series based on the case. The series will also feature interviews with the mother and the stepfather of victims Madison Mogen and the family of Ethan Chapin. Mogen, Chapin, Kaylee Gonzalez and Xana were killed in an apartment in Moscow, Idaho in November of 2022. Kohlberger was later charged with the murders. He is scheduled to go to trial in 2025. We are honored that the Chapin and the Laramie families have decided to exclusively collaborate with us to shine a light on the personal stories of Ethan, Madison, as well as Xana and Kaylee. And this is, okay, so let's stop here. This is what really, really makes this a story, is what we're about to read in this next paragraph, because I'm pulling up 1, 2, 3, 4 different examples of why this next paragraph is important. Welcome back to my channel. I just want to take a minute to talk to you about today's sponsor to this video, which is the New York-based jewelry company, Louisa. So just to tell you a little bit more about not just the company and not just the product, but their mission. So when Louisa asked me to be their sponsor, I chose this beautiful necklace and these beautiful earrings that to me resembled hydrangeas. So I come from the land of hydrangeas and ocean, and these were perfect for me. It's ceramic and gold jewelry. So I'm just going to take a minute to explain to you what's special and unique about this jewelry, other than its elegant and simplistic design. So a couple things about Louisa. They have unmatched quality, no compromises. Every single piece is rigorously strength and humidity tested. So these are long-lasting, tarnish-resistant essentials that you can feel good about wearing. Elevate your style without emptying your wallet. I love this. Louisa's designs start at just $39. And they do have like solid gold sets that are obviously more expensive, but this is such an affordable price point. What also this makes me think of is that this is the perfect price point to buy someone you really love, or like a female in your life, a nice piece of jewelry. But either way, it's a great website. I do get paid when you. So thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you, and let's get on with today's story. Different examples of why this next paragraph is important. So just take note. All right. Our unparalleled access to the families and the closest friends will allow us to paint an intimate and authentic portrait of our 4 victims and their lives at the University of Idaho, which were so tragically cut short. We couldn't ask for better partners than Skydance and James Patterson Entertainment to help us bring a definite telling of this important story to the world. Without influencing anything you have to say, I'd like to know in the chat, do you think that description sounds differently than Bloom's description? What are the differences in the sources between Bloom's description? Go ahead and drop it in the chat and we'll display it after I'm done with my sound bites, because it is important. These books were sourced and written in 2 different styles. Okay, added Skydance TV president Matt Tennell. The events that transpired in Moscow, Idaho shocked the world and left many unanswered questions. With Liz Garbutt and James Patterson at the helm, and with the involvement of the Chapin and Laramie families, we will shed new light on these horrific murders and the horror of the 4 innocent lives that were taken too soon. Let's move on. Both documentary series and potential, sorry guys, I didn't mean to say potential. Both docu-series and potential scripted series stem from Patterson's first look deal, Skydance TV, the company that is also producing Prime Video's Cross, based on Patterson's Alex Cross novels and starring Aldous Hodge, along with Paramount's television studio. So I find this really interesting. So let's just read how Bloom describes his book. So like, initially when we were reviewing this, we were comparing and contrasting Howard Bloom's book to James Patterson's book. But here's what I was getting at is in the trailer, Mazzy says she realizes that they were stalked. And when this book was initially released, and when The Night Come Calling came out, Steve Gonsalves made a public statement. I just want to show you guys really quickly. But he certainly has all the talent coming to James Patterson Publishing. So good. So such an interesting development in this case, that we're going to have that kind of skill, giving us a narrative based on the firsthand account of the victims' families. Hey, Moondan. WSU Mom Kim says, does it make more sense that Brian and Bethany had ties? He said she could exonerate him. I don't think Brian has the ability to lie as a mom, not as a fact. People talking about them like rumor. So I've never reported them on this channel, but I don't know. And we'll find out. Mm-hmm. Dean says, WSU Mom Kim, agree 100%. Anyway, that's it for today's, you guys. I hope you have a wonderful day. And oh no. Oh, let me think of it. Hold on. The peace be your journey today. By the ABC. Meanwhile, from Steve Gonsalves to Andrew Myers. Hello, Andrew. Thank you for this opportunity. We have one primary question regarding Bloom's book. What evidence supports the theory that BK was focused on Maddie Mae? In our recent meeting with the prosecution team, they expressed difficulty in establishing direct connections between BK and the victims. If Bloom has stumbled across some substantial evidence, please get in touch with Thompson and share it promptly. We are collaborating with a digital forensics company to strengthen these connections. Meanwhile, the court's reliance on outdated gag order is proving ineffective, as seen with Bloom's book and the true crime communities shaping these new narratives and expectations. It is the prosecution's responsibility to represent the unembellished truth without any fictional elements. And their task becomes increasingly difficult with each passing day, I'm sure it's supposed to say. We no longer live in a world where media is centralized and on black and white televisions run by ABC networks. Today, people can access countless points of view from all over the world. Most of these content providers are not under the control of any courtroom. Let's hope Judge wakes up and starts being proactive in addressing this situation. Thank you for your time and efforts in this case, Steve Gonsalves. And it's a particularly important. You know, what's interesting is before I get to the next soundbite there's actually a quote from Dr. Ramsland in this, and she brings up the reason why people shouldn't jump to conclusions without seeing all the evidence. And it's particularly interesting because Dr. Kathleen Ramsland is Brian Kohlberger, one of his professors from DeSales University. Let me show you what she says. She's specifically talking about Dennis Rader in this clip. It's about a 2-minute clip. And then I'm going to bring up the other things pertaining. Hunter, who consults death investigations. So let me bring up this soundbite for you. We have a little bit of time. I just wanted to add this question, if you don't mind, Dr. Ramsland. You are an accomplished nonfiction writer, which is a specific and special skill. So you have personally researched and written about very profile cases, as we've been talking about. So we do a lot of scripting here on YouTube for our videos, and a lot of us write as well. What advice would you give others when writing and scripting nonfiction crime stories?
Well, I think the first thing you have to do is research. When I got involved with this co-author on the Henley piece, she was a prodigious researcher. She had been on production crews, and that's how I met her. She was on the production crew for the 4-part documentary we did on the Rader book, and she could get things. We'd figure out what we needed. We always wanted to ground it in documents, in facts. It's very easy to speculate, and unfortunately the true crime arena is rife with speculative ideas about who did what, accusations, unfounded. People have lost sight of the need for evidence. And it's not just the amateur web sleuths. I see it in law enforcement too. They saw her being killed by this guy, not by Dennis Rader. But so what I'm trying to say here, when you hear how easy it is to make a case because you have a few of the facts that sound good, and you move forward and you think because it sounds good, it's right or it's true or it's accurate, and you lose the need for evidence. You think speculation somehow replaces evidence, and it doesn't. And yet we're seeing that over and over and over again in some of these cases, because everybody wants to jump in and solve the crime or stake their claim on some given crime, and they know what happened, they know with certainty what happened, and they don't know. But it's become a problem. And so my advice is, whatever you think you know, make sure you understand that you may not have all the facts you need to make the case you're trying to make. There's a cognitive error, which has a terrible name, Wiziati, but it's what you see is all there is.
I'm stopping there. And that just reminds us, when we're looking at this, sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. I was saying I have a presentation for you, so I'm going to pull that up right now. And this has to do with the reason for this live stream and the whole theme of this live stream. And then afterwards, we're going to get to the DoorDash driver. So I feel like I'm a little bit rusty at live streaming tonight. I have this video private. It was actually pretty popular. I might make it public again.
Good evening, America, and welcome to this special edition of Cross Country.
On who started out with a soundbite regarding the demolition of the house.
A complete disregard because of the demolition.
When this case is over. So let's get right into it. Here we go. So I don't talk about BF and DM to try them in the court of public opinion at all. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Their stories are so important. Every bit of their story that gets placed on the public record, I want to analyze and review. When this case is over and the dust settles and we're looking back, we're going to realize how unusual it is to have survivors there before, during, and after the last seconds of these victims' lives. 50% of homicides in the US go unsolved. And what they have to say, mark my word, whatever they have to say is going to shape this case. And I think they're going to be witnesses. And I think both the prosecution and the defense is going to use their words to their favor. So these surviving roommates, these surviving witnesses, they are a big deal. And I think we're going to realize just how unique it is to have them when this case is over. So let's get right into it. So to begin with, the general theme of this video is just talking about the DNA evidence, analyzing both sides of this argument, because there are legitimate points. There are legitimate talking points on both sides of the DNA argument. So I want to cover both sides in this video. The side of people who are favoring the DNA evidence against Bryan Kohberger, and I'm going to try and go chronologically as far as controversy.
Legit casual, hashtag KJB. Do you think the university cares about the victims and their families? Seems like complete disregard because of the demolition. All I can do is read the statement from this gentleman here, President Scott Green, University of Idaho, and he said, that the house is a grim reminder of the heinous act that took place there. And then he says, this is the part here, quote, while we appreciate the emotional connection some family members of the victims may have to this house, it is time for its removal and to allow the collective healing of our community to continue. And look, it's part of my job to be curious. And I am curious as to how many hands were in the bucket when it came to making this decision.
So I started out with a soundbite regarding the demolition. There's more to this presentation, but I wanted to pause there because this is what I'm getting at that I think is going to be interesting about the series, is that it's actually going to talk to Karen Laramie, Maddie's mother. And she had some issues, or she stated some issues on Good Morning America. She said she had some issues with the investigation. And I'm curious, is it with, she said with the investigate, she didn't really specify. She said with the investigation. And when I see that quote from Scott Green, it makes me think of the honorary degrees that were given to the victims. And when Maddie's mother went across the stage, and this is speculation in my opinion, but you can go look at the footage for yourself, she looks like she shrugs Scott Green. And I wonder if we're going to hear some sort of dynamic about this. And if I had to imagine why, I'm curious if it had anything to do with the demo of the house, or what her issue might have been with the investigation that she mentioned on Good Morning America. Would it be something to do with the jury pool? I don't know. But anyway, I'll keep going with the presentation. The house, because I do believe that's the end of this timeline that we're talking about. So now we're just hearing what's going to be allowed in court. The evidence collection ended when the house was demolished. So let's talk about everything starting from the beginning towards the end of what we know about the DNA. So I want to start with this clip that's been circulating for the last week. So recently we saw a video released on TikTok that's been circulating YouTube, and it shows people out front of the 1122 King Road home immediately proceeding first responders to the 911 call. And I want to start there because I want to bring up some of the concerns or questions that my viewers are bringing up about this clip. So let's start with the clip itself.
She shared how it was hard to watch from afar, and the university had sent out an email to the students to see what she told me, someone in a pink hoodie. She says that it's Hunter Chapin.
So as you can see, people have spent time identifying who is in this picture. And really, rather than focusing on who's in the picture, I'm going to focus on who's not in the picture. And that would be DM. So I want to play you this news clip, and it has been vetted by two separate YouTubers I know, one being Unfiltered Lucky and the other one being AR Hayes. This clip has been confirmed, where they're talking about a fifth victim, and it's fascinating.
On Good Morning Northwest, tragedy on the U of I campus. 4 students dead, another in the hospital. The new information we're learning and the questions we're hoping to be answered.
The initial report said that 4 were dead and 1 was brought to the hospital. So seeing these pictures and knowing DM wasn't there, and knowing that one of the roommate's cell phones was used to call 911, but it wasn't the roommate, it makes me think that one of those two was an unconscious person. Possibly that's why the cell phone was used by Hunter to call 911. So with that said, it's a possibility when we don't see DM in this picture. She could have been at the hospital. She also could have been at the police station for questioning. So it could be F. We don't know. One other thing we see in this picture, which is really interesting, I want to bring up, is you can see where the kids are sitting in front of this dumpster. You can see the dumpster is full. I'm going to play you this clip really quickly, And what I want you to do is pay attention to the garbage truck as it leaves. The garbage where these kids were sitting was emptied into a dump truck. And I'm bringing that up because the police realized the importance of what was in that dumpster and followed the dump truck to a location and actually went through that garbage.
Students to see what she told me, someone in a pink hoodie. She says that it's Hunter Chapin.
Right there, that's a red flag for me. Why was the garbage pickup not halted from that crime scene? I know we've all questioned why there was garbage on the outside of the crime scene that appeared not to have been gone through. That was a direct quote from Kaylee Gonzalez's mother as well, that she felt Kaylee's trash had not been gone through in her room. So just maybe it's a red flag, maybe it's something, maybe it's nothing, but I do want to bring it up. And I do think that possibly if it's not protocol to not check the trash at an investigation, it needs to be, because as a criminal, we all know now the place to hide the weapon might be in the trash or the dumpster. As a criminal, you might think to yourself, well, maybe if I hide evidence in the trash, nobody will ever find it. I mean, that's what I'm thinking. I want to keep focusing on this photo. What do we see in this photo? We see Murphy, okay? Let me play you this quick news clip from a Fox News reporter. Let's listen in.
And doing everything they can, including talking to neighbors. I talked to some neighbors who live nearby here too, John, a few hours ago. They told me something that was pretty interesting. We've been talking about that back sliding door so much, but the front door, I'm told by a neighbor who walked by that morning, who was coming back to his apartment, was wide open around 8:39 a.m. He told me that he gave that information to investigators, but we hadn't heard too much about that front door. And around 8:39 a.m. would have been a pretty good amount of time before police ever got the call that those students were dead inside. John.
So this hasn't been verified by police, but she's telling us that the door was open at 8:30 in the morning. We learned from the recent hearings, Murphy wasn't locked in a room. Murphy was in a room with the door open, and all the other doors in the house were open too. The doors where his owner lay slain, where the girls that he was around every day lay slain, and he had no evidence on him. And he wasn't confined, but he stayed in an area. Now, fear can do anything to a human, to an animal. The fight or flight is real. So I'm not doubting that the dog could have reacted in this way. But if the door was open, So, I mean, just to further bolster that Murphy had no evidence on him, we see him here at the dumpster being held by other students. So these are just questions that I'm bringing up. Now, I want to go a little deeper into the DNA and the DNA evidence. Okay, so one of the peculiar things, so there has been sort of like a peculiar shift to me in the defense of Bryan Kohberger in the last like 60 days. Whereas I'm going to pause there because I don't want to like get too far off subject because we still have to talk about the DoorDash driver tonight. But a couple things I wanted to bring up. So in that TikTok that we saw, they identified Hunter in it. Just a couple questions. I'm curious, how many people were there that morning? And were they there because of Snapchat? Those are two questions I have lingering in my head. I wonder if those questions will be answered during the docu-series. I also am wondering, so I don't know. I think we could start a conversation with an alternative suspect. I think it's interesting to see. I think it's interesting to see Hunter HC talk about DM to know that there was the interaction of that family where the family did put that question out through the in-laws where they'd like DM to answer, but it didn't sound in this when he was speaking in the past tense, because he talks about how he felt while the unaliver was still on the run. It didn't seem like he had questions about DM, but I wonder if that family still has questions about their actions afterwards. And I don't know. I just wonder how much they're going to elaborate on that. I think that it's one of these things where if they're releasing a film or a docuseries right before the case, they're not going to say anything that damages the case. So anyway, while I was watching this, I realized on the subject of Murphy, I have one other thing I want to show you guys and then I'm going to get to the DoorDash driver. All right, so just please watch this video. I made this, let's see, 5 months ago, but it's very relevant when it comes to Murphy.
And this is a guess. I feel like Murphy started making and again, this is a guess. I feel like Murphy started making noise because he heard something happening to Maddie. I just envision Murphy freaking out and jumping on the door. Something's going on with Maddie. This is just total speculation based on all the little nuances I've gathered over the past 2 years or so. But the way I feel it went down is... Hi, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Swamp Rose, and I cover the IDAHO4 case, otherwise known as the case against Ryan Koberger. And today I wanted to talk about one of the victims in this case, Maddie May. And I'm talking about her because I just feel that I have so many lingering questions about Maddie, and I just wanted to bring it up to you today. The first thing is that we just hear so much about Maddie being the target. And let me just give a trigger warning and break down how the PCA sort of states this went down. So DoorDash came at 4:05 in the morning, okay? We know nothing about them. We don't know when the perpetrator opened the home. So the big question is, who did the unaliver meet inside the house first? And this is just total speculation based on all the little nuances I've gathered over the past 2 years or so. But the way I feel it went down is... Okay, so I'm going to just make a couple speculations here about why I think there kind of is 3 different crime scenes within the home. So the first one would be when the perpetrator came in. Steve Gonzalez said they didn't have to go upstairs. I'm going to talk to you about why I think they went upstairs and why I believe that the perpetrator came back downstairs and met Xana and Ethan again. So don't forget, at 4:17, long after the crying and all these first initial indications someone is in the house, there was an outside ring cam that picked up a thud at 4:17. So that was after the struggle upstairs and the first signs of crying downstairs. Let me talk a little bit more about this. There was a struggle upstairs, but Xana crying on the bottom floor in that PCA. So after Xana was heard crying, we hear the perpetrator say something to the effect of, "It's okay, I'm here to help." Well, that was after it sounded like the dog was playing upstairs, and what DM thought was Kaylee saying, there's someone here, which the police said that they thought was Xana. And I don't know if that's because they want to say that the order is different than what DM is claiming. I don't know.
You know what's so interesting though about this is so this is before we found out that the forensic download on Xana's phone was an hour earlier. So like all of these speculations that we're making are still based off the PCA. So again, I don't know when they talk about the forensic download to Xana's phone, I don't know if they're like specifically speaking about that one TikTok being downloaded or if like her TikTok activity was scrolling, but we know now that that last TikTok was an hour earlier. So anyway, I'll keep going on this. And then we're getting to the DoorDash driver in a second, because obviously in this, I'm referencing the DoorDash driver and we have new information.
But that's the way the PCA lists it. Obviously I have nothing to base any of this on, but
Thank you.
The way that I see it laid out in the PCA, it sounds like Murphy, and again, this is a guess, I feel like Murphy started making noise because he heard something happening to Maddie. And you remember, DM said it sounded like a dog was playing. Well, the dog was locked in a room. So if the dog was inside the room and it sounded like they were playing, I just envisioned Murphy freaking out and jumping on the door, trying to alert Kaylee something's going on with Maddie. Then DM heard a voice say, there's someone here. And that's when she met the unaliver in Maddie's room. I mean, it could have happened a different way. Many people, including the victim's father, say they were sleeping together in the bed. But I don't know. I'd love to hear your speculation down below. A couple other anomalies when it comes to Maddie that are probably none of my business, but they don't make sense to me. And I'm particularly curious about them when it comes to motive. Let's just talk about her boyfriend. She was in a committed relationship for 2 years. And I just wonder about the Tinder account. She opened that Tinder account. She opened her Tinder account a year before January of 2021. So it was over a year before the unalivings. But she had been with her boyfriend for 2 years. So I don't know, were they on a breakup period and she opened the Tinder account? And why didn't she delete it? That's a pretty bold thing to do. Although in the grand scheme of things, on the flip side of that, I erase apps and I don't actually close the accounts either. So it could mean something, it could mean nothing. But just back to Maddie, her and the other 3 victims were all listed in these extended financial records in the summer of 2023. And there were 2 redacted names in that. We can only imagine it was the other 2 people in that house. The police kept saying the house is the target. When you go through these financial records, it mentions a company called Block. Now, we know that this group of young adults used Venmo a lot because we saw their transactions being tracked on social media. I'm wondering, why did all of them also have the Cash App? And this is the anonymous cash exchange service, but it sounds like they all had Block. Now, that could mean they have like a Block reader on their phone. I don't think we could know that, but listen to this. So Block is a global technology company with a focus on financial services made up of Square, Cash App, Spiral, Tidal, and TBD 5456669, TBD 545666975. We build tools to help more people access the economy. Square helps sellers run and grow their businesses with this integrated ecosystem of commerce solutions, business software, and banking services with Cash App. Anyone can easily send, spend, and invest their money in stocks and Bitcoin. Spiral, formerly Square Crypto, builds funds, open source Bitcoin projects. Artists use Tidal to help them succeed as entrepreneurs and connect more deeply with fans. People suggest that this could be referencing some adult website. I think it's more feasible, though, if we're including all of the victims and we're profiling this, that this could be something about crypto. And I mean, maybe I'm going out on a limb, but I just remember the victim's father, Kaylee's father, coming on national television with his Hex crypto hat on. It could have meant nothing, but it's still like, this is the person who is volunteering to be spokesperson. They're polishing themselves for national television, and they make a choice to wear that hat. Now, a lot of people say, oh, well, he was under duress. He probably didn't understand or know what he was doing. He probably just wanted to represent his family. I don't know. It might mean something. It might mean nothing. But if they're talking about a target, I just want to go back to one thing. It is alleged that there were young adults called over to that house the next morning before the distress call was put out. It has been posed to me that these two schools are super close, like within 10 minutes of each other, and a lot of them run in the same social circles. What if those rumors are true? I'm just speculating here. What if people were called over to the house first, and some of those Snapchats or social medias made it into the hands of Brian Kohlberger, and he did a drive-by to see what was going on? I mean, he's a criminology major. It would make sense. I mean, it would make sense. And then I was talking about prosecutorial strategy in my last video. Another interesting thing is they talk about the pings in the PCA and everything. And then we saw Bill Thompson on the stand adamantly tell Edelman there was no stalking, and he knows that. Well, so how are they going to categorize those 12 pings? Are they going to say that he was casing out the situation? I mean, I don't know. All right, so I just wanted to bring up these anomalies about Maddie May. I'd like to know what you think. One thing about Maddie we have to remember is she also signed with a modeling agency. And so it's an interesting thing. Models can get paid on hourly rates. If a model that's put on something print or something online, oftentimes you can get residuals for your work. So who knows, maybe Maddie was making more money than we knew. I'd love to hear your opinions in the chat. If you've made it this far, I just want you to know I really appreciate your viewership. Thank you for listening to what I had to say. I would love if you considered subscribing to my channel. I try to put out videos like this every day, and I'd love to have you part of my true crime community. So with that said, I hope you have a wonderful Wednesday. All right, we're gonna stop there. I mean, we've got a lot of people in chat. I can keep going because there is just so much to talk about, but I think now we're going to just get to the DoorDash driver because, whoa, what the heck? Hold on. Let me fix that. Okay. So now I want to get to the DoorDash driver. Oh, thank you so much for subscribing. I really appreciate it. All right, so I have to give credit for where I heard this from. So today on a channel, Translucent released, I assume via FOIA request. I don't know how she tracked it down, but it appears that the DoorDash driver in the Brian Kohlberger case has now been identified. And according to what I heard, it kind of sounds like this person is a witness. So I'm not going to obviously play I don't have permission to use the body cam footage, so I'm just going to describe it to you. But I'm going to start by saying this is very validating because I was on a live stream several months ago, and we had A.R. Hayes say that he could confirm the DoorDash driver was a female. And he couldn't get into all of his sourcing, but he did tell us that. And lo and behold, we have that confirmed now. This was a female. And when she was sitting in the room, she started describing a horrible unaliving involving her husband. And in distress, she says, I am also, I'm paraphrasing. And I'm going to be very careful too, because I do question, like, I don't know, like my job here is to not assume guilt or innocence to Brian Kohlberger. I try really hard to be balanced. So I don't want anyone to know my opinion, whether I lean guilty or I lean whatever way I lean. I'm trying to be objective. I'm trying to
go right down the middle and be brave enough to ask, like, be curious and ask questions. So with that said, I favor not putting things out that are prejudicial to Brian Kohlberger, because that's not the way our system works. We have to work as a society for innocence until proven guilty. So yes, the only people actually required to believe that have to do with officers to the court. But as a society, since the cross-section of peers is chosen by the people around us, as a society, like as citizens, we should try to maintain innocent until proven guilty. So I don't want to get too prejudicial about what is said, but there are some curious things about what she said. She said that she was the witness in another unaliving case. The officer asked her, well, what case? And she goes, the college girls. And she goes, I was the DoorDash driver. And then she said, I saw Brian. Those were her exact words. So here's the thing, though, is I don't know what to think. I don't know what to think about the timing. I'm not sure I don't know exactly when the DoorDash was dropped off. So it's a hard thing for us to exactly speculate. But I'm going to have to go back and I'm going to have to look at all the footage that's been released, knowing that we know there definitely was a DoorDash driver, female. I'm going to try and look up information on that. I have one big question, though, which is, does she have a dash cam? I remember like a lot of talking about video of suspect video. And I had so many speculations, like, could that have been the balcony video? Because we know there was somebody on a balcony, a neighbor who got suspect vehicle 1 on a freaking camera out on a balcony. So I kept thinking, and it's been authenticated and the prosecution's not using that footage. So I'm like, okay, is that the video of suspect video? Some of us have thought, well, that could be like Bethany. Could somebody in the house pulled out their cell phone? But now I'm thinking like video of suspect video. Could the dash cam have had could the DoorDasher have had a dash cam? You know, I don't know. And if she says she saw the perpetrator, does this mean this is a witness? Like, I mean, obviously she's a witness, but I don't know. I wonder what was the description. And this information has been available since the beginning. So we know that AT and the defense team knew about this information. So that means that they also knew about it when they were coming up with their alternative perpetrator theory, which we're going to be hearing so much about. And if you don't know, we had new documents come out this afternoon, and and Brian's team is motioning to admit evidence in for alternative perpetrators. So we know it's coming. Whoever it is has to fit whatever was said by this dash cam, or they might try to discredit this person. In this footage, she is facing serious charges, and there's clearly any defense team would bring up in question if she was under the influence, many different questions. So there's that. I'd love to know what your questions are. And I'm talking so much, and I'm sorry I'm neglecting the chat. Let me turn to you guys real quick. All right. I start a few questions before I get too far. First off, I just want to say, Bootsy, good to see you. Thank you for being here. I hope you get your channel up and running soon. We can't wait to have you back part of the conversation. Angel D, I hope you join me on panel. And I just want to say thank you so much for the gifted memberships. Christy, thank you for being a member 12 months, my managing mod. And Moonvale, I'm so glad you made it over here. I really wanted to watch Tommy's live earlier, but it was just conflicting time. So I'm going to go back and be part of the replay crew, but thank you for joining me here. Angel D says, yes, I wonder when the interviews were filmed, before the recent court docs and grand jury testimony was partially revealed. So I have the clip here. I mean, I could play it for you. I've gone over and over Hunter Chapin's statement, because there's two Hunters in this. This is the first time we've seen HJ speak out. But Hunter Chapin in this, I really listened to it because I actually was listening to Harsh Reality earlier, and he was like, well, does it sound like they filmed this before? He was just posing the question. And I really listened, because you know how in like reality TV, they'll have like the Kardashians go back and pretend like they're talking at that time or something like that. I think that that's what it is. And actually, since it's only 30 seconds, I will play you the clip, because I'll pull it up. I was questioning whether I played or not, so I'm going to just play it. So again, this is the Amazon Prime docu-series. It was produced by James Patterson, and as you saw in the those who are watching from the beginning know that. Oh shoot! I didn't save it. Give me 2 seconds. Okay. These kids. So I'm going to the 55-second mark, and this is a 30-second clip, and you can decide for yourself whether you think Hunter's talking present tense or if he's speaking of the way he felt that night.
Just why would you target those four? There's a big realization that we had been stalked for so many months and had no clue. People were panicking. People were really fearful.
There's this person out there who had just murdered our brother. And he's still out there somewhere.
Moscow police put out very little information, rumors, and speculation.
I think he's speaking about the past tense.
Just murdered our brother. And he's still out there somewhere.
People were panicking. People were really fearful.
There's this person out there who had just murdered our brother. And he's still out there somewhere.
He said there's a person out there who had just murdered a brother. So we use past tense. All right. Julie says, I just saw another channel that the DoorDash driver was a female who revealed her identity and when she got arrested and the initials match. So I mean, I think we found them. I have no idea how this was located. Really good sleuthing work. I had Christy says, if these interviews are from many months ago, have their opinions changed? I can imagine they might have. Purely speculating, of course. That's a great point, Angel, and I didn't even really think about it. And I'm sure they started working on it. We knew this docu-series was in the works last summer. So think about that. I mean, we don't know how much they know. The entire community went silent. I mean, the only person I knew who spoke out about her WSU mom, Kim, but like we really didn't hear people coming out and speaking about this. So these things were filmed prior to the 911 call and the text messages being released. Could their opinions have changed since they saw that? And let me go to the next. True Crime Insanity says, just listening again, attracted to your channel because you seem to seek the truth, not a person. 8 hours has been the biggest red flag since day one. I disagree with you. I don't think that, I mean, obviously, aside from the public safety issue that we all have when it comes to this case and getting the right person, this is the biggest mystery in this case. You know, aside from who did it, it's wondering what happened in those 8 hours. Now, when we don't hear hesitation or people in this, I don't know. I don't know what to think. I don't know if the families, I'd like to see their disposition. Does it sound like they have suspicions? Does it sound like they have doubts? We can't glean too much from that trailer, but it will be really interesting to hear what they have to say. And I will say that for Hunter, for HC, Hunter Chapin, that family, a sister-in-law to the triplets, came out and said they had questions about one of the surviving roommates, and they would hope that they answered those questions. So I wonder if they've had a chance to talk to them, if they've cleared up those questions. I really want to know how many people were there that morning. Stop talking and get to the chat. Sorry. Okay. I'm just going to start right from the bottom. Lori Scott says, my point is they were doing some of them. Oh, wait, I'm going to take these glasses off. Like, these are blue blocker glasses so that they make it harder for me to read. My point is they were doing some of them up until then. I don't know if it means anything other than they were still talking to people. Okay, Tammy says, I find it odd that the DoorDash driver's husband was killed on November 13th. Oh, I didn't, 2013. Now, I had heard that part of the segment. I didn't realize it was so long earlier, but isn't that a breathtaking irony? I think I put the glasses back on. I feel like I look kind of fat-faced tonight. Anyway. Where is Tanks? All right, let me go up and yeah, if you could please hit the like button, I really appreciate it. It puts the live stream in front of another person, and I don't mind too. I know that certainly certain viewers don't mind. I don't mind if you hit the dislike button too, because it lets me know which streams aren't resonating with you too. But just interacting with the video really helps me. Even if you could just hit a heart in the live chat, it really helps. Thank you. This is a great comment. Thank you. As one divided, we fall. True crime community. DoorDash and cast and geofencing report. So it just brings up so many different things. So in that initial tower dump, so we should have a DoorDash driver. I don't know. This is what question it brings up to me. Whoever the alternative suspect is, whoever the Ann Taylor is presenting, like this really gets to me. Is it's not just the description, it's not just the availability, it's not just the motive or whatever they're going to have to show. How does that alternative suspect's cell phone data, that also has to match up too. So it'll be whoever the alternative suspect is. Okay, I might go out on a limb here. I have suspicions. I think I know who the alternative suspect is. I actually want to make a video about it, but I will say this. The person who I have in mind would have been somebody who would have showed up at that house in that period of time. But if you think about it, whoever AT and the team is going to present as an alternative suspect, it has to have some sort of cell phone data that supports that, unless we have two cell phones that stop reporting to the towers at the exact same time. Wait, hold on. Did they have the DoorDash car there? Wait, DoorDash doesn't require a cam. Doubt she had one. Heck, you can deliver DoorDash on foot or on a bicycle. Yeah, that's true. I think that I would speculate. I don't know. I'm not a dasher, but I would speculate that you'd get some sort of discount in insurance if you had a dash cam, or I don't know. I think that's why I think some people would do it. I mean, we had some speculations because there's actually another young man whose father was involved in ISP who does DoorDash around there. And we had speculated that he might be the DoorDasher and have a cam. I don't know. There was no collision, says. Her initials are MM, and I should probably look at the screen. Her initials are MM, and there is a court doc that references non-Maddie person known as MM, that the people were guessing who it might be. Could really be her. Yeah, I mean, we have nothing confirmed, but I heard with my own ears what I heard. It's just hard because I don't want to put anything out prejudicial. So I wanted to save it until the end. The people who really wanted to talk about it, we could wait. Wait, Jacob Monster 999 has a question. A question, Swamp Rose, I have is how long was the DoorDash driver there? And whoever she is, how did she know it was Brian in the house? I think she probably interjected her words. She probably should have said suspect. At that moment, I mean, she was broken down. I mean, we're talking about somebody who had been through an arrest, all the, the emotional trauma they must have been through. I mean, I think she probably slipped. She probably also didn't think that her body cam footage would ever be released in public. I mean, she probably wasn't thinking about gag order at that time. But yeah, I mean, if she is a witness, that would have been something under seal. But maybe it was relevant to her arrest. Maybe it doesn't matter because she was with law enforcement. I don't know. Maybe the gag order was just preventing someone from disseminating information to the media, so it doesn't matter. I'm just saying things now, so I'll stop. Yeah, actually, if my mods could drop a link to Translucent's channel so everybody can please go watch the body cam footage and make their own opinions. The timestamp I was looking at was at 36 minutes, and Miss Pottage, thank you so much. Miss Pottage shared it in my Discord. That's how I know. And I want to also say something else while we're chatting. it's like 9:41. At 10 o'clock, there is a live stream I'm really interested in listening to, and I want to tell you guys about it because I think you'll be interested in it too. Truth Transparency, Lana, is going to be going over the audio visual experts for the defense. And I'm telling you, this is going to be so important to this case. This is going to be riveting. This is going to be so important to us who have been following this case. And I'll tell you why. Because think of the ex parte question that Ann Taylor gets for Special FBI Agent Nick Balance. Because there's 7 minutes of exculpatory evidence according to the vague and undisclosed witnesses. So at that point where the quote unquote 7 minutes of exculpatory evidence begins, that's when the cameras start tracking BK's or suspect vehicle 1. Now, the significance of that is this is when the cell phone tower data ceases to be relevant to the state's case, and this is where the cameras pick up. So when it comes to the audio visual experts, this is going to be a battle. This is truly going to be a battle of the experts. So it's going to be super interesting to hear that live stream. So I highly recommend it. Maybe my mods could even drop a link to Truth Transparency so people can go watch it too. I believe it's at 10 if she hasn't changed the time. Oh, we have some new people in the chat. I just want to welcome. Let me go back up here. Wait, there were at least 6 female MMs in Tonka. I mean, it would almost be for another live stream, but you have extensively talked to me about another MM. We'll see what everybody has to say in the morning. I'm sure everybody's going to be researching this and looking into it, but you know, I can't wait to hear everybody's takes. I can't wait to hear my researchers in Discord letting me know what you guys think. Wait, did she confuse his doppelganger? And is she traumatized? I would say, I don't know. And I mean, anyone, I think, going through what she just went through, regardless if it's their fault or not, that's a traumatizing thing. So I would speculate yes. Yeah, we should probably have a disclaimer banner. We're purely speculating on anything. Let me go ahead and throw up the banner that this is all speculation and just our opinions. Really do encourage you to do your own research and form your opinions. But with that said, I really do try to research and verify things before I bring it to you guys. And another thing too is a couple people sometimes have questions about my work or my sources or verification. Go ahead and don't be shy. Leave a comment in the chat, ask a question, and I'll tell you exactly where I got my sources, how I confirmed everything. Okay. Yes, the DoorDash driver's husband said on Translucent's channel, police arrest video, she said husband's name, and I Googled his name, and it gave him. Thank you for clarifying that. So that's how we found out the 2013. I appreciate that, Tammy. For the longest, they were saying she was a key witness to prove BK's innocence. I wonder, okay, please don't anybody get mad at me for saying this. I wonder if she saw a naked man. I don't know. Purely speculation, no fact. Okay, so I think Karen's getting to the point, especially what she's arrested for, even if we didn't make any judgments on her appearance or the way she was acting, just for the situation she's in would cause question. She looked and acted like a very unreliable witness between her taking pharmaceuticals and other things. Does any dark-haired guy look like Brian? Did she know Brian in order to recognize him? Another interesting question too for identification, which we had it for Dylan. Did they show a lineup like a 6-pack, or I don't know? Did they do a sketch with Dylan? Did they do a sketch with the DoorDash driver? I'm dying to know some of these answers to these questions. Thank you so much for the gifted memberships. I really appreciate the blessings, you guys. I appreciate all the positive energy. Jack Derry, I meant sorority and frat. I think it was a group of people. I forgot. I'm not so. And Ellis, tell it to Elle. It's good to see you. She says Emma B can do what she did, and she's still walking these streets freely. We all saw her in jail. You know, it's funny you bring up her name because I was like, I don't know why, but when I knew the DoorDash driver was female, I really thought that she might be the one. But anyway, thank you for the comment. Moon's Mama, hold on a second. Mama Gator says, question, was there more than one Good Jibes neon light at 11:22? I think of it in, I mean, from the outside looking in, I mean, I think I've seen every angle going through those windows. I believe there was one in the living room, but I mean, in the, in the living room, but I don't know. There could be one. I don't know. I'd love to know what the chat thinks, but I think there's just one if I had to guess. One. Straight UK flag. Okay. I'll say good night, guys. Working tomorrow. Cheryl, thank you for stopping by. I really appreciate your support. Mama Gator, I believe there was one on each floor. All right. Well, thank you for the food for thought. I'll look into that and I'll get you guys an answer in the next live stream. I really do want to wrap up before Lana's live stream starts, though. I'm a bit behind, sorry, but the DoorDash driver says she's a witness and saw Brian and body cam released today by Translucent. Yes. And I mean, the timestamp I'm referencing is 36 minutes. We put a link in here for you guys to go form your own opinions, watch it for yourself. I'm not going to play it here because, like I said, I didn't have any permission. And I think it's exclusive. So I think that's the only place you can watch it, too. Hold on. I listened to the body cam, but I didn't hear that part. 36 minutes. I'd go in a little bit before and just keep listening. I'd say listen for like maybe 3 to 5 minutes after that, and you'll hear all the details that I just went over. I think Brent K was a witness. She made me think of that because she said inside looking. Remember that post? I didn't hear her say that. I'm going to go back and review the whole thing too. What? If I knew I could have. Did she say that? I'm going to have to go back and study the footage. Yeah. So, all right. Well, I'm going to end. I just want to say a couple of thank yous really quickly. The first and foremost, I want to say thank you to the live chat and thank you to the viewers for this positive energy. It just, I feed off it. It makes, I love live streaming and I feed off your positive energy. So thank you so much. I also want to say thank you so much to my Discord server. I just want to say you are the best researchers on YouTube. I love the information and the ideas you present to me. So thank you so much to my Discord server. I really want to take a special thank you to my mods. It's not just what they do for me in this live chat, you guys. They really help me behind the scenes, whether it's with fact checking or just encouraging me. I just appreciate everything they do. And again, to all of my viewers, if you're just watching and you're not commenting, you're just lurking, I appreciate your views. And I'm glad you're here, even if you don't leave a comment, but I would love to see a comment and hear what you have to say about tonight's live stream. With that said, I would love if you consider subscribing to my channel. I've taken a little break from YouTube, but I try to put out content like this daily, and I'd love to have you be part of my community. And please hit that notification bell because I have no schedule and I just come up kind of randomly. So let me see. Sorry for ignoring this. I thought it was imposter. Yeah, I have like all these identities. I have a couple other channels too. I'll link them after this. I'll put a post up. I have a couple little secret channels I've been live streaming on. So I have two Discord aliases. I don't know why I'm telling you guys this. They're both the same person. One's Swamp Rose, one's Kiki. Oh my gosh, it looked like the King Road house in his eye. Wait. Oh, inside looking? I remember that. Anyway, the poll is pretty obvious. Oh, thank you for being here. All right, I thank you, Tonka, and I appreciate your point of view too. So with that said, I hope you have a great weekend and hit the notification bell. I have an alternative suspect live stream for tomorrow. So have a great night. Don't forget to watch Truth Transparency. Let's find out about these audiovisual experts coming up in this case. Have a great night, you guys.